So we're going to be going through an example of how I would go ahead and thumbnail a spread, which is 2 pages that are right next to each other. I'm just going to draw a line down the middle, and this will represent our 2 pages right here. In our story, the son, whose name is Saul, is going to be surrounded by all of these planets that he wants to be friends with, and he keeps trying to pull them in, but they just keep circling him and circling him and circling him. So in this scene, we want to capture that movement. This is one of the first scenes that's going to show the whole of space, because space really is kind of our canvas at this point. So I'm going to use both pages as a full page spread to sort of illustrate the vastness of where he is at. Working with this, there's going to be a couple different ways we can do this. I want him to be visible, but I don't want him to be the foremost thing in the drawing. So I'm going to be putting him near the center because he is the focal point, but I don't want it to be too big. I'm not going to get hung up on the details at this point. Like I was talking about before, I'm just going to make a circle to represent him. I don't need to put an expression yet. I don't need to put a face. I don't need to put a whole lot of thought into it. I'm not going to worry about color. This is all about just creating a layout. So my idea is to have him in the middle and then have sort of like the planetary orbits around him showing the proximity of the other planets to him, and their also relative distance, because they're near him, but they're all sort of busy doing their own thing. He's going to be in the middle, but then all of these other planets, the planets that he's trying to become friends with, are all sort of surrounding him and moving around him in a circle. When you're drawing your sketches and your thumbnails, this is where you want to think about how your text is going to be laid out on the page. If you have drawn out your sketch and you have a lot of detail over the entire surface of the page, you may have difficulty including the text. Depending on how much text you're putting in, it can be anything from a few words to several paragraphs. And if you think about that in your design process, in your sketching process, just be aware of that. If you fill up everything, you're going to have a harder time adding the text in. And I don't have specific text right now that I'm going to be putting in. So I'm just leaving areas that I can put, and then the focal point and the images will be sort of here in the middle. A lot of times people will put a drawing in the top of one with text underneath, and then maybe have a picture here with text above it. Okay, so with that in mind, we have Saul here in the middle, and we are going to just start putting in planets. Now, this is a sketch. All of you planet nerds are going to call me out on this. I don't know the order. I don't know which sizes yet. This is something that I would research and I would go in after the fact, but this is just to get the idea out onto the page, okay? So don't destroy me in the comments or whatever.
Do you want me to tell you?
So the idea is that Saul here in the middle is lonely. He has all of these things sort of circling around him, but nothing ever sort of gets close. And we're capturing that idea by showing him small in the center with all of these planets sort of like close by, but never coming into contact, never fully like connecting the way he wants to. So even with this very rough sketch, you can start capturing feelings. You can start capturing an ethos that you have throughout the story. The point of the thumbnail is to give you a chance to explore those things and explore those different options and different ways of going about outlining your story visually. One other consideration is if you're doing a double spread like this, not putting very important details along the spine of your book. This area oftentimes will get folded together, or depending on how it's assembled, oftentimes it won't be just a clean break. So you can put colors and things of that nature, but obviously I'm not drawing a planet right over the spine just because of the fact that it can distort or something like that. And also, depending on how the book is open, sometimes it won't be fully visible. So I would consider this to be a pretty solid thumbnail. Again, the size of the thumbnail isn't necessarily as important. You can do a full-size thumbnail, you can do a smaller thumbnail with a lot on one single page, whatever you're comfortable with. The idea is just that it's very simple, it's very straightforward, it's not detailed, and gives you an idea of what the content and the text will look like in harmony on the page. So once this is finished, depending on how happy you are with it, I would still go ahead and draw several more examples. If you want to see how this looks if it was tilted the other way, or if it was maybe flat across, or if it was straight down from the top, trying to change the perspective of the drawing or the sizing of the elements in the drawing, this is the time to do it before you get hung up on, because this took me 5 minutes. If I did this with all of the details, it would be an hour or two. And that would be wasted if later on I decide to change something. The important thing at this stage is just to get it out on paper. And so doing several versions can save you a lot of time later on if you decide to change something, or if you're like, actually, I liked the third thumbnail that I drew for this spread.